So then, so if you then you have then then you can fix it with the time given to you extra days. We find differences. We find in different times that there's a different view of how we look at this main time, so to say, the time, the holiday itself, and the time given you to fulfill to extra time given to you to fulfill your obligations. L'dugma, give us an example. If a person couldn't fulfill their obligation because they were an einus, einus means it was out of their control. Is in Iraq im nenes bisman ha'ikri oze einus rachmana patre. So we say like this: the rule is that if a person wants to do something, has all the means to do something, whatever you have, but for whatever reason an einus happens, something out of their control. So if the einus happens in the day that you were supposed to do it, which is Shavuos, so then the Torah says einus rachmane patri, that if you're an einus, it's out of your control. Rachmana, meaning the Torah, God, the compassionate one, doesn't hold it against you, so to say, because you wanted to, you couldn't. But if a person could have done it on the actual time, on Shavuos, and you were lazy, and then comes the time you were given added, you get another 5 days, you get another 7, you get a total 7 days, so an additional 6 days. And then an einus happens, it's out of your control, but it was only out of your control in the extra days. Then it doesn't apply because you had an opportunity to do it on the day itself. You were lazy in pushing it off to later, thinking you have extra days. God gave you extra days, and now all of a sudden an onus happens, something out of your control happens. Well, you should have done it on the day itself. Because again, the idea of tashlumim, the word tashlumim comes from the word to complete or to make whole. So giving you more time to do something, it's not in itself its own entity. It's only an extension to the day itself. It means when you have something that's the actual point itself, and the Torah says, okay, I know that 24 hours is too short of a time, so we're going to give you a total of 7 days, but it's only an extension of the 24 hours, really. But in the time that you were supposed to be doing it, the essential day, you were not an einus. It wasn't out of your control. You were just lazy, what have you. Then you can't say, well, then when I wanted to do it, it was already out of my control. But why didn't you do it in the time you were supposed to do it? And then the Torah considers it as if you didn't do it willingly, meaning you decided not to do it because you were able to do it on the day itself. So basically what the Rebbe is bringing out over here, that seemingly the idea of when we have the 7 days given to us to complete something, it's a completion of the essential day. It means the holiday itself of Shavuos was on the 6th of Sivan. And because there's obviously a lot of people and there's a lot of obligations, it could be you're not going to be able to do it on the day itself. So then you're given an extension of time. But that extension is only an extension of the main time. And therefore, if in the main time you could have done it, and only something, an oinus comes out, something out of your control only develops in the extended time, then too bad. Then you should have done it on the time itself. And therefore, it's considered as if you didn't do it and you didn't do it willingly. Because at the time, the day itself, you had an opportunity to do it. What's the Rebbe's point? The Rebbe's trying to say something here. So the same thing we have to say. This applies to the holiday of Shavuos. Because the idea of Tashlumim is not just in Shavuos. For instance, there's an argument about Pesach Sheni. Is the second Pesach just the completion of the first Pesach? And therefore, if you were able to do it on the first Pesach, you can't just jump to the second Pesach. It's only if you weren't able to do it in the first Pesach. So the same thing would apply with Shavuos. That the 7 days, the 6 days after the 6th of Sivan, means the additional 6 days, is just an extension of the essential day. But the Rebbe says that's one way of looking at it. But the Rebbe says the truth is, from another perspective, there's something that's unique about the extended days or the completion of days versus the actual day itself. Why? The Rebbe says the difference between the main day and the extended time given to you is the same difference between a tzaddik and a Baal Teshuvah. Why? Because this extra day given to you is like the second opportunity given to a person of Teshuvah. The idea of giving extra days to complete what you've lacked is like Teshuvah, giving a person an opportunity to fix, hold on, Aaron, to fix what you've done. Ella, Teshuvah hi alaveris mamish. When it comes to Teshuvah, we're talking about a person who does a transgression. So God gives us opportunity to fix the transgression. But in our case, it's not that you did a transgression because you didn't do it on Shavuos, but it's still a completion of something that you didn't complete. So therefore, just like we say that there's something unique and special about the Baal Teshuvah versus the tzaddik, so too, the extended time, the day that you could complete what you didn't do on Shavuos, has something unique versus the actual day itself. Yes, sir.
Okay, what I don't understand, I understand what you're saying, but I'm thinking if you're Baal Teshuvah, if you're in war or you're sick, but if you're standard Orthodox, it doesn't matter what level of Orthodox, you have the day off from work and it says to take it. So what would be other reasons you couldn't do it?
Okay. We're not talking about, there could be, first of all, there could be reasons why a person couldn't do it in the times of the temple. Just it was crowded and it wasn't available. You couldn't find the cow. I don't know. There's a lot of 24 hours for millions of Jews to put the sacrifice through in the temple is complicated. So that's why in all other holidays you always have 7 days. In Shavuos it's only a 1-day holiday, but we extended the time to give you also the same 7 days to fulfill your obligation of the holiday. There could be many reasons why it didn't work out. But the same thing we're talking about, the idea is that it's an extension, and an extension is seemingly, so to say, is not. It doesn't have the same emphasis as the actual day itself, right? If someone gives you an extended time, so you should do it in the actual time itself, but we'll give you an extended time. So, but the uniqueness is, the flip side is that someone could rectify, like a teshuvah, even though it's not teshuvah on a sin, but teshuvah on maybe not pushing yourself harder. But so there's something unique about the days of Tashlumin. This would apply to these days, the 5 days, the 6 days that are given to you, in the total 7 days, but the 6 additional days that are given to you, have something unique versus the day of Shavuos itself. And the Rebbe now is for bringing on the end, the 12th of Sivan is the end of the 7 days. He's in the Matan Torah, because what's this have to do with Torah, with Shavuos, the holiday of Shavuos? What do we have? What happens on Shavuos? Shavuos is 2 things really. One thing is the day that the Torah is given. The second thing is it's the 50th day from the cutting of the Omer, and on the completion of the 50th day, we bring the sacrifice of the 2 breads. It's one idea. As explained in the Likutei Torah. Why do we give the 2 breads on Shavuos? Because the 2 breads represent the Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh, the written Torah and the oral Torah. Is Meir b'chol takvi meshach chol shivas Yemei HaTashlumin. So the Rebbe says this idea that there's of the Matan Torah and the 2 breads, which is a sacrifice connected to Matan Torah, even though seemingly it's not, but the Likutei Torah says it is because it means that light of Matan Torah extends through the additional 7 days, the total of the 7 days that are given to us for the holiday. And what's explained in the extension of the Torah, or I'm assuming of Yisra, yes. Why is it that all other holidays are 7 days and Shavuos is only 1 day? Pesach and Sukkot are 2 days, 7 days. Because Shavuos is when we receive the Torah. So the Alter Rebbe explains, because Matan Torah is something unique, something special, something from before the world, before time. 7 days is the cycle of time. And the Matan Torah is connected to the oneness of Hashem that gives us His oneness of Torah, and therefore it's on 1 day. So then we can say, the Rebbe says an amazing thing. That there's something unique now about Shavuos, even versus Sukkot and Pesach. Sukkot and Pesach, initially it's a 7-day holiday. The holiday was given for 7 days. Yes, of course, best to bring the carbon the first day, but if you can't, you have the 7 days to bring it throughout the holiday. Shavuos was a 1-day holiday. We made the 1-day holiday, we extended to give you another 6 days, a total of 7 days, to do your obligations. But it stays a holiday of one day, meaning to say that the oneness, the elevated beyond the number of 7, beyond the division, the one number that's not one of 2, but just Yachid. That's the difference between Echad and Yachid. Yachid is singular, Echad is one of 2. So the singular part of Torah is in every one of the 7 days. So the 7 days themselves are elevated to the level of Shavuos, which is the singular, the Yachid of Torah, the oneness of Torah. Va'od Yosef, the Rebbe says even more than that. Even more than the holiday itself. So the Rebbe says, based on what we said before, that in the extended time, there's something unique. It's like the uniqueness of a Baal Teshuvah, someone who could rectify something like it says that Baal Teshuvah is higher than a tzaddik, where the Baal Teshuvah stands, the tzaddik doesn't stand. So therefore, the oneness of the Matan Torah in the extended days, in a certain sense, is even higher than the oneness of Matan Torah in the day itself. Now the Rebbe is obviously trying to talk about what's so special about tonight, the end of the 12 days, of the 12th of Sivan, the 7 days of Tashlumim. That the Rebbe says that the final day is more special than the rest of the other 6 days. And now that we're holding the end of the day, mamish, the last few minutes of the 7 days of Miluyim, because this is the completion of the days of the extended days. And the rule is it's all how we finish. It's all about how you finish. It's more how you finish than how you start. Why? Because at the finish is where the strength of everything is. How you finish shows what it's a simon and a siba of everything that you've been doing up until that point. The rule is by laws of documents. That although a document it has a lot of details of a contract, let's say. So you have a lot of contracts, a lot of details, a lot of points being discussed back and forth. This line, that line. But then it comes down to the bottom line. What's the bottom line? The bottom line is in the star. That's the ikr. So if there's even halachically a confusion between what's written in the initial part of the document and the end of the document, we go with the end of the document because everything goes according to the end. So if you want to know everything, look at the end. How did a person finish? The Rebbe says we find this idea also about the reflecting light. It means the reflecting light is when the light hits the furthest point and bounces back. So that power is in the reflecting light. That's the end point. And there you see the real strength of how you could bounce up. We could do a mashla as the example is known. We know the rule is when you want to use a lever to pick up a car or a house, whatever, something that's heavy. So you need to put it. So where do you put it? You put it at the bottom. You have to put it at the bottom of the car. If you're going to put it on the top of the car, you're going to rip off the top of the car or the house, whatever you're using. And that through picking up the bottom, you pick up the whole building. But if you're going to start in the middle of the wall, you can only pick up the top part of the wall, not the bottom part. So too, it's how when the completion of the 7 days, that's the main thing. That with the 7 at the end of it, it includes in it all the other 6 days. Another idea of what does it mean? Why do we look at the finish of something? Okay, Bechal is a general rule. A lot of people start off enthusiastic, right? In a marathon today there's the marathon. I think the bicycle marathon in Jerusalem. God bless them. They're going to the roads will be difficult to drive. But it's not. A lot of people start the marathon. It's how you finish the marathon. So too in life, it goes out how you finish something. So in the finish of it is the sign of everything. So there says, "Bir ma'ile sheish v'gemar davar." How could we to explain better the idea of how why we focus at the finish of something? What do we say about who's the first person to talk about a finish? Or not first person. The first entity to talk about a finish is God. God says He finished creation. That on the 6th day, God says everything's finished. We go into Shabbos. It's like any person. God, when He finished creating the world on 6th day, at the end of the 6 days, says, He finished, and He made an evaluation. How did I do? right? And he saw and he was happy. It's like a person who finishes a job. You look when do you value the job? See if you did a good job, HR. When do you see if you did a good job? At the end of it. And did I do it according to the way I wanted to do it initially? And only then you get the pleasure of your completion. You can't compare the excitement and the pleasure and the delight a person takes in starting something with how you finish it, especially this specifically if you finish it the way you wanted to finish it. Then when you actually finish what you wanted, for instance, the delight in finishing a marathon versus starting the marathon. So then that delight you have at the finish of it hits deep all the way to the core of the soul. But that's only if you finish it the way you wanted to finish it. But if you didn't finish it the way you wanted to finish it, then the disappointment also affects every part of the person. When God finished the world, creation of the world, then it hits the core of Hashem. That when he saw this is the world that I created and this is the world I want to take pleasure in, it reached the core of Hashem. Because I'm moving, the Rebbe is saying even more. When the Rebbe is saying when a person doesn't meet, is not satisfied with how you finish. Not talking about a person who's always never happy with themselves or never happy with how they finish something. We're talking a person with an honest evaluation who looks, okay, I didn't reach the level I expected. So although there's certain satisfaction that at least you accomplished something or you tried, but there's a certain disappointment that penetrates through the whole body. And specifically doesn't even reach you don't have that satisfaction that reaches the core of the soul. Therefore, when we're standing here tonight, at the end of the 7 days of Shavuos, is the time when we could really understand how did we do? How did we finish the holiday of Shavuos? That we're finishing off all the revelations of Shavuos, and not just the revelations of the number 7, but the revelations of the number 1, the Yachid, how that goes through each day, and the entire 7 days is the Yachid, the oneness, which is above numbers of the giving of Torah. That's why in creation we say Hashem Echad, because it's about God's uniting all the different elements of the world. But Yachid, like we say in Shabbos and Mincha, we say there's a concept of the Yachid, and even though it's Echad v'Shimcha Echad, but nevertheless, there's the concept of Yachid is higher than the concept of Echad of one. The singular versus the one, versus one of two. And then you have even more at the end is when you have the real strength. Virash, there's a storm, the storm. Even more than Shavuos. Shavuos, you only started the holiday. So it's like starting the marathon. It's a great opportunity. But where's the deep satisfaction? Where's the deep achievement? And where's it really reach your core of what happened and what's happening? Is when you reach the completion, when you reach the seventh day. So too is when Mashiach comes, right? Mashiach comes. You can't compare God's satisfaction in the beginning of creation of how things are going to end with creation. Well, Pisa Yuvan, based on this, we'll understand. My father-in-law, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe tells. He once went on a walk with his father, who's none other than the Rebbe Rashab, Rav Shem Tov Veshinantam, who's the 5th Rebbe Chabad. So he took a walk with his son, the future 6th Rebbe Chabad, Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak Shnerson. B'Yud Beis Sivan Tov Reish Nun Hey, in the year of on the 12th of Sivan, in the year Tov Reish Nun Hey, which would be 1895, I think, if I'm right. So in the year 1895, the Frierdiker Rebbe took a walk with his father, the Rebbe Rashab. The Frierdiker Rebbe passed away. The Rebbe Rashab passed away Tov Reish Pei, so 1820, and this is 1920, and this is 1895, 25 years before. So in the early years of the previous Rebbes of the Rebbe Rashab's leadership. So in this walk that he took on the 12th of Sivan, the father and son, the Rebbe Rashab, tells his son about what's so great about the 12th of Sivan, again, the end of the days of Tashlumin. That the Rebbe Rashab told his son, the Frierdiker Rebbe, this is the 7th day of the holiday of Shavuos. Just like Hoshana Rabbah, which Hoshana Rabbah is the 7th day of Sukkot, and Shvi Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach. So the question is, the Rebbe says, what's the comparison? How could you compare the end of the 7 days of extension, of completion, to the days of holiday themselves? Hoshana Rabbah is a holiday; it's a special holiday. Shvi Pesach, we all know, is a special holiday. How could you compare the end of the 12th of Sivan, which is the end of the 7th day of Tashlumim of Shavuos, to the actual holiday of Hoshana Rabbah and Shvi Pesach? There says Hoshana Rabbah Hugmar Chtimus Aptikim. Hoshana Rabbah, aside from being the 7th day of Sukkot, is also the completion of the days of judgment. We know there's different levels of the days of judgment. There's Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and Mamish, the end of the sign of the notes of how next year is going to be, is Hoshana Rabbah. That's one of the reasons we stay up all night and we say Tillim and we learn and we wish each other a good kvitel, because the final note of how the year is going to go is on Hoshana Rabbah. And we say a lot of Veshinantam. There's a special prayers that we say on Hoshana Rabbah, as we all know. The 7th of Pesach, aside from it being a holiday, an actual holiday, it's not even like the days of the Moed, meaning to say that our half holidays, so to say, that were between the first 2 days of Yom Tov, or the first day of Yom Tov, until Shvi Pesach is Chol HaMoed. Shvi Pesach is actually a holiday. It's not weekday. 12 days. The 12th of Sivan is a regular weekday. It's the Tashlumim, we don't say Tachlum, but how can you compare it to Shvi Pesach and Hoshana Rabbah? Yesh by Gam, Ha'inyan, Ha'miyuchet Kriyas Yamtov, and side for that. Shvi Pesach is the day we celebrate the splitting of the Red Sea. V'ilo Yud Beis Sivan Hu Yom Chol, the 12th of Sivan is a regular weekday. The only difference is we don't say Tachlum, and you have an opportunity to complete what you didn't do in Shavuos. But the very fact that the Rebbe Rashab did anyways compare it. He compared the 12th of Sivan to the day of the splitting of the Red Sea, Shvi Pesach, and the day of Hoshana Rabbah. Doesn't make a difference. We know, and the Rebbe talked about this in his first talk, and when he accepted leadership, because the Rebbe is the 7th leader from the Alter Rebbe. We have the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, Mirash, Rashab, Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Rebbe. The Rebbe spoke about that we are the Dor Shvi, the 7th generation, and we know the Chol HaShvim Chavivin, that the 7th is always a special number, and therefore the Yud Beis Sivan is the 7th of Shavuos. The Rebbe says that doesn't make a difference. From the first day of the holiday till the 7th day, by the 7th day reaches the powerful light. We know this in Chassidus it explains. What's the power? Why do we find the sun is very hot? And you go to certain places in the world, it's very hot, right? You go to the desert, it's very hot. But if you go in the atmosphere, you go up in a plane, it's freezing. Why is it like that? How could it be that the closer I am to the sun, it's cold, and only specifically in the desert, a low place, in the valley, is even colder than the mountain. It's hot. Because that's the power of the Or Chayzer, of the reflecting light. Where the light finishes, it hits the earth and bounces back. That's where the intensity of the sun is, the intensity of the heat. So too, if the 7th is the end, Kol Hashvim Chavivim, that's the Or Chayzer. That it could even be that it's cooler in the earlier generations or in the earlier days. That's why it's Choil. But the 7th day, that's where the light finishes, and therefore it's the intensity of the light and the intensity of the heat. And therefore the Rebbe says, the Kol HaShvim Chavivim, HaNishbiyim HaShvi, Shekol Moed, and any holiday, on the 7th day, Meir Gili or Shal Yom Tov V'Toikiv, the light of Yom Tov, the initial light, is at its strongest in the Sturm. Sturm means like a storm. Hachi Gadol, in its greatest intensity, Mitzad HaMayil Dar Chayzev, because of the reflecting light. And where the light stops and bounces backwards, where the point of, specifically the Teshuvah point, Ar Chayzev represents the point of Teshuvah. That's where the real heat is. The Rebbe says, we spoke many times, at the end of the day, what's the whole point of Matan Torah? The bottom line is, at the end, with all its uniqueness, is that it should translate into action. It all comes down to the action. And therefore, how do the Jewish people get ready to receive the Torah? What do they say to God? We'll do and then we'll listen. They committed to the doing first. And this emphasized the power and the strength and the importance of action. First, they told God we're going to act. They didn't say we're going to listen, learn, and then we'll translate it to action. The Rebbe says now in our days that we're holding Mashiach is about to come. And then it's going to be that even the argument that says Gadol Talmud that the study is great because it brings to action. But when Mashiach comes, it's going to be specifically the action is important. Therefore, we have to emphasize all this is talk. We have to emphasize how does this translate in action. We find about from the holy Baal Shem Tov that the Baal Shem Tov passed away, especially according to the custom of Chabad. He passed away on the first day of Shavuos. Zman Matan Torah, the time of Matan Torah. How did that Baal Shem Tov start? His leadership in this world was in action. Like we know that the Baal Shem Tov, before he became famous, before he revealed himself, number one is he became a teacher, not just a teacher, a teacher's assistant. And he went around making sure the children actually say, Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabbah. That's action, actually say it, not just teach about it. For the Baal Shem Tov to stand there as a teacher's assistant and make sure the kids say, Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabbah, that's action versus study. Also, the Baal Shem Tov spent his early years in helping Jewish people find specifically parnasa, livelihood in the physical sense, not just spiritual. He went to make sure everyone had what they needed materially. Only after he did the action, right? He didn't preach theory. First, the Baal Shem Tov started before anyone knew who he was, making sure kids say Amen Shmei Rabbah, seeing what he could do to help someone make a living. Only afterwards. Did he start teaching the secrets of Chassidus of Torah? Razan Daraisa, the secrets of Torah. The Rebbe says the same thing. Also in this Farbrengen, they're celebrating, I believe, Kfar Chabad, the village of Chabad that's in Eretz Yisrael, next to the airport, next to Lud. So the Rebbe said so too was how the Frierdiker Rebbe approached Eretz Yisrael. Because we know how things work in the world, everything starts with Eretz Yisrael. Like it says, Zeshar Shemaim. This is Yaakov said. This is the gate of heaven. And how things start in Eretz Yisrael is how it extends to the rest of the world. The Rebbe says this doesn't make a difference if we're talking about temple times or exile, diaspora times. Everything starts from Eretz Yisrael. Zeshar Shemaim. It's a statement. The difference between in Eretz Yisrael, between temple and diaspora, or Golus, and Golus affected Eretz Yisrael, of course, as well, and still affecting Eretz Yisrael, is with regard to revelation and concealment. But Eretz Yisrael is always a higher place. This is the heaven. This is the gates of heaven. As is explained in the Maimer that in Torah about Lavan who had two sons, meaning Rachel and Leah. In the times of exile, diaspora, the light of godliness in Eretz Yisrael is concealed, but it's not that it's not there. The Rebbe says it could be possible that as far as revelation and concealment, there could be certain revelation aspects in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael, that's even more revealing than what's being revealed in Eretz Yisrael, as far as revelation and concealment. Shisham hoop to tachlis ahelim legamri, because it can masher be weird, because in Eretz Yisrael sometimes could be totally concealed. But that's only the way things are revealed and concealed. But how God operates as far as flow into the world, he always flows through Eretz Yisrael. Everything goes through Eretz Yisrael. It's just people don't see it. It's concealed. The pipes are covered. The halach is when Eretz Yisrael became a holy place, it was holy for at the time and holy forever. It just we may not see the holiness. We may not recognize that that the holiness comes through Eretz Yisrael. Possibly there's things that are much more revealed in Chutz La'aretz, the Rebbe's in Chutz La'aretz. It doesn't change the fact that all flow for the whole world, Jew and Gentile, flows through Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, when with regard to Eretz Yisrael, the Friedrich Rebbe didn't start with anything like yeshivas or theories. He set up a city, a village of Kvar Chabad. That's like an action, setting up a place of houses and jobs for people to live in. But just like Yaakov, there had to be the initial yeshivas that were sent from the time of Torah Semes, etc., that were sent initially, but that was only just like Yehuda was sent to Goshen to get ready for the settlement. But the focus was initially to set up the settlement of Kvar Chabad. The Rebbe continues. And this idea that we're talking about, that the idea of Shavuos is nasa, to do, and especially to do when it comes time for Mashiach, that the focus has to be on doing. The Rebbe wanted, in honor of Shavuos, and in honor of the idea of taking action, that this is here the Rebbe is celebrating now. Sorry, I made a mistake. The Rebbe is not selling Kvar Chabad because Kvar Chabad was set up by the previous Rebbe. Here, this is 1960. The Rebbe wanted, and the Rebbe did. He set up what's called Shikun Chabad in Yerushalayim. That's where my children went to school in Torah Semes, which is on the bottom of Rehovchana, the mother of Shmuel. The Rebbe says that the Rebbe wanted to start setting up Shikun Chabad in Yerushalayim and Kvar Chabad Beis. The Rebbe says, like anything good that wants to happen, there's a lot of obstacles. It didn't happen that we were able to start setting up Shikun Chabad in Yerushalayim. The Shikun Chabad means the Chabad neighborhood, and Kvar Chabad Beis in Kvar Chabad, which is like about a 5-minute drive from the first Kvar Chabad, is called the second Kvar Chabad. The Rebbe says he found out now. That's why the Rebbe is bringing that in the 7 days after Shavuos, they were able to get whatever it was that they had to get, maybe the documents. Obviously, they didn't finish putting up the building. I don't think he means about that. And like we said before, that within the days of Shavuos, and there's the strength of Shavuos, the Rebbe is very happy to announce that whatever it means that they did at the time was they were able to start establishing Shikun Chabad, the Chabad neighborhood in Yerushalayim HaKodesh, and Kvar Chabad Beis. I think the Rebbe is referring to Kvar Chabad Beis. The Rebbe says something else happened in these days. Hayom Yud Bei Sivan Yemei HaTashlumin Higia Kan Likut Shel Torah Baal Shem Tov. The Rebbe says, I received today. This is in honor of Judith, who is inspiring us to tell stories of the Baal Shem Tov. The Rebbe says, I got a likut of Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, a book, evidently, that it's a collection of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and stories of the Baal Shem Tov. This was put together by a chassid, I believe, who lived in Yerushalayim, Kodesh. His name was Glishenstein, that he put together, I don't know the name of the sefer, called, I guess, a likut of the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, with stories of the Baal Shem Tov. But Meshach Zman Kotzer Yatz La'aretz, and it's going to go out into print soon. Let's see, 28 gives us any more insight. It's called Sefer Toldos Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. That's the book. The book is called The Life and Legacy of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. So the Rebbe says, V'kivan, Shekol Inyanim Hem Hashgacha Pratis, everything's by divine. V'yesh Kesher V'shachas B'neim, and everything has to be connected. Yitin Hashem Yisbarach, so may God bless. Shekshem Sha'idei Likut Hanal Nisparis Mataris Baal Shem Tov, by this publication of Torahs, of what's it called? Toldos of the Sefer Toldos Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. K'fi Shehaya B'Chabad, as the stories are known. Sorry again. May God give. By this publication, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, as the Chabad Rebbes have taught the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. This should bring down to the world. We know God looks in the Torah, and from the Torah He creates the world. Shetiyis rachvis vispashis gam binyanim oilam the kerem Chabad, that the things that are important to Chabad, the vineyard of Chabad, should be able to expand, like the expansion of Shikun Chabad and Kfar Chabad Beis. When we add to the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov is the teachings of Chassidus, like the Rebbe Rashab said. The fact that we say stories of the Baal Shem Tov, we publish Torahs of the Baal Shem Tov. This should be a path and a channel for broadness in everything that we need in specifically in Chabad as an individuals of Chabad, even in the Gashmis, in the material. That each and every one of us should be able to learn Torah because we have an abundance. We're not concerned with the stress of finance. To be able to learn and teach Torah with a broadness of mind, until the time where the promise will be fulfilled, that the world will be filled with the knowledge of God of the days of the coming of Mashiach. This was the Rebbe's first talk. We have a few minutes. Let's continue with the second talk. My father also tells as follows. So he took a walk. It wasn't uncommon that the Rebbe and the Rebbe, Friedrich Rebbe, and his father that were super, super close would take walks, and in these walks they discussed a lot of things, and the Friedrich Rebbe would later write the different discussions he had with his fathers when he had these walks. So he took a second walk the next day, the 13th of Sivan, that same year, Tav Reish Renei. Doesn't say here where the walk is, but possibly these walks were in Chutz La'aretz, means they were not in Russia or Rostov, wherever they were at the time of the Lubavitch, possibly like in places like Vienna or other places where they were traveling. That year, the Rebbe Rashab put his son into the institutions. Askanis means to be a community person. Even before the Friedrich Rebbe became Rebbe, for many years, he was first his father's personal secretary, and also he was in charge of a lot of different communal affairs. Communal affairs meaning things that are important to Chabad worldwide. That was preparing the Friedrich Rebbe to later become a leader of the Jewish people. So in that walk, on the 13th of Sivan, in 1895, so the second day after the first walk, where the Rebbe Rashab said that Yud Beis Sivan is like Shvi Shel Pesach and Hoshana Rabbah. On the 13th, he said, that the 13th of Sivan that we're going into now, tonight, which is Friday, this year, is the 7th day of the passing of the Baal Shem Tov. Now, this is wondrous. Why? Because in Chabad, he didn't pass away in Zayin, he passed away in Vav. Even though according to Chabad, there's different Messiahs. The tradition by Chabad is that the Baal Shem Tov passed away on the first day, on the 6th of Sivan. So Yemei HaTashlumin, so the 7th day, how we count it is on the 12th, not the 13th. So why would the Rebbe Rashab say it's 7 days from the passing of the Baal Shem Tov? We could say, but possibly, we know that the Baal Shem Tov, the famous thing he said, before the holy Baal Shem Tov passed away. Again, just learning about the Baal Shem Tov brings brachas to everyone who's participating in this class tonight. The Baal Shem Tov said he could have gone up to heaven, just like Elijah the prophet. Just like Elijah the prophet went up to heaven through a chariot of fire, Baal Shem Tov could have gone up physically into heaven. There's something special to be said about the verse in the Torah, the commandment or the statement in the Torah that you're going to return to earth, right? A man was made from earth. Then the Torah says, "Vel offer tashuv," you're going to return to earth. Even though seemingly that was a punishment because death came to the world, but the Torah says so. And the Baal Shem Tov says there's something unique about vel offer tashuv, to return your body to the earth. V'nimsa she'inyan vel offer tashuv, this idea of returning your body to the earth, hu adayin b'chlal avidasai, means he still had to do it. That's still part of his job. He accepted upon himself, instead of going to heaven like Elijah, the prophet, that he's going to go back to the earth. But he wasn't buried, because halachically, if you pass away on Yom Tov, you could only be buried on the second day of Yom Tov. So he wasn't buried until the 7th of Sivan. Yom HaShvi l'Zayin Sivan Hu Yud Gimel Sivan. So the Rebbe says, why is it the 7th day of the passing of the Baal Shem Tov? Because he was buried on the 7th, not on the 6th. If he was buried on the 7th, then he was still accomplishing something because he wanted to accomplish of being buried to return to the earth. So he kind of will start counting from the 7 days from when he's buried, not from when he passed away. Okay. The Friedrich Rebbe says that his father told him on this walk on the 13th of Sivan that he said it's 7 days of the passing because of the burial of the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbeinu Zaken Hoya Atzmi. The Rabbeinu, the Alter Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, who tells us a lot about the Alter Rebbe, and we know Chabad, about the greatness of the Alter Rebbe, of all the Rebbes, but we talk about the Alter Rebbe, he was an essence. Atzmi means a person, everything that he did it wasn't an extension of himself. Everything he did was his etzem, it was an expression of his essence. He was an Neshama d'Atzilus. We know the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov tells us this, that he was a soul of the world of Atzilus, meaning everyone's soul starts at a point, but gets changed with the world. And as the soul goes lower and lower, it changes like the light changes. Alter Rebbe, as the soul was in Atzilus, that's how it went into his body. That's very rare. V'kasher atzmi, neshama d'Atzilus, nasimani Yisrael. When someone like the Alter Rebbe, whose whole being is to be an etzem, to be the essence, and this is the essence of the soul of a soul of the world of Atzilus. And he becomes the leader of the Jewish people, because sometimes you could have a tzaddik that's not a leader, but he's the leader of the Jewish people. Azayin Haga, he kapdonis, streng. The Rebbe says there could be kind of streng is severe or strict. Kapton is someone who's strict. Some people didn't know how to accept this from their Rebbe, from the Alter Rebbe, that he was strict. They didn't handle it well. So one time the Alter Rebbe walked out, and he would do that. He would walk out. The Alter Rebbe spoke in a sing-song. So he walked out once, and he said a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov as follows: Veshinantam Levanecha, you should teach the children. Lilmoid v'lishanein le'elu shiroitzim lahavin, you should teach to those who want to understand. V'hainu, what does that mean? Shemefarish levanecha b'lashon bina. He means to say the Veshinantam Levanecha, from the word bina. Levanecha could also be rooted in the word bina, understanding. You should teach to understand. V'dibarte bam, and you should speak to them. Zosarain reden inzei. So there's certain words in Yiddish that I don't know how to translate them in English. Rein reden means to speak. A rein reden is like to der Herr, is to speak into them. V'dibartem bam means to speak to them. Uvidibartem bam, to speak within them. So a rein reden inzei, you should speak within them. This is the Alter Rebbe saying of a Torah teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. Then they'll be able to sit in your house. Then when a person Veshinantam learns to understand, and the teacher could teach within them, so then you could when you return home, you could bring the nitzutzis, the sparks, back to where they belong. When you're in the road, so you could take the sparks and return the sparks that are in your space, and also the sparks that you find on the road. In other people and in the world itself. And how you learn, if you learn to understand, and you're able to be a rein reden, you could take within yourself, and that you could go and they could take the sparks within you and the sparks that you find on the road, meaning in others and in your space. Then when you have to go to sleep, for the long sleep, the sleep for afterlife, Yom HaMisa, day of passing, when you resurrect in the Tchias HaMesim, how you teach and how you learn and how you understand properly, and how you go out in the world and affect your sparks and the sparks of others, affects how you go to sleep, how's Yom HaMisa, the day of death, and how you wake up when you're the Tchias HaMesim. Okay, we're going to just finish this and I have to go. When the Alter Rebbe finished saying the teaching, and this was not rare, Noflu kama talmidim bisalfus, this a whole bunch of the students fainted. So the Friedrich Rebbe says his father explained as follows: Shesibas isalfus, why did they faint? Not because he talked about the day of death, and not also because they were so excited about the resurrection of the dead. El hapachad, the fear that he fainted from. The very fact that the Alter Rebbe just said a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, that itself caused him to faint. All right, we have to finish over here. Want to wish everyone a good Shabbos and completion of the 12 days tonight. It should be in the best of ways in the